Remember the 16th of April. Yeah, it's not quite the same, is it? But April 16th is the anniversary of the Battle of Culloden. Now, if you have any knowledge of Scottish history at all, you've probably heard of Culloden. In the grand scheme of things, it was a relatively small conflict, but it marked the end of the Jacobite rebellion and the beginning of a brutal crackdown against the Highland way of life. So on this anniversary of Culloden, well, there's really no better day for a dram. Let's take you back. In 1745, Bonnie Prince Charlie landed in Scotland. Now, he believed that his father, James Stuart, was the rightful King of Scotland, and he led a rebellion and aimed to unite the Scottish clans to rise up and overthrow what they saw as the illegitimate Germans sitting on the throne. They marched all the way down and were right on the doorstep of invading London. Now, what they didn't know was that the King of France was actually sitting in France waiting with all of his troops. If Charlie and his troops had marched into London, Louis would have sent over a whole bunch of French troops and history would be very different. As it was, Bonnie Prince Charlie's advisors said, look, we might be able to take London, but will we be able to hold it? We'd best beat a retreat. So the French support that Bonnie Prince Charlie thought he had been promised never came. They retreated back to Scotland, and their aim was to disperse, hide in the Highlands, let the Crown army try and find them, but let the Scottish landscape and elements do the work for them instead. What happened was the armies met at the field of Culloden. Now, the Jacobites had tried a daring night raid the night before, where they thought maybe if we can hit them while they are sleeping, we might stand a better chance of winning the day. But this is 1746, trying to coordinate 3 bodies of men in pitch black night, without any kind of formal communication equipment, marching over ground. They never quite got there. So on the morning of the 16th of April 1746, you've got an army that had been marching all night, trying to establish a night raid that wasn't successful and didn't actually take place. They are tired, they're hungry, half of their friends have gone because they thought the plan is to disappear into the Highlands and let the government troops try to find them. And they lined up on Drumossie Moor to face this well-trained, well-armed government force. Now, unlike the incredible success the Jacobite army had had up until this point, well, these guys were prepared. Instead of crumbling under the famed Highland charge, these guys, the government force, stood their ground. They broke the Highland charge and they took no quarter. Now, sources are disputed as to whether Prince Charlie was dragged from the field of battle for his own safety or whether he ran. Sources are conflicted on that. But what did happen was the Highland troops saw their leader leaving the field of battle. He went into hiding, and that was the end of the Jacobite rebellion. And what followed that, I've talked about in other videos, the 1746 Act of Prescription, a whole bunch of other legislation that led to what would now be described as both war crimes and as a cultural genocide against the Highland clans and the Highland way of life. That is why we remember Culloden. And that is why on the 16th of April, on its anniversary, we raise a dram to the fallen and we raise a dram to Scotland. There's no better excuse than that. Sláinte mhath. Cheers.